Two young guys appear in court after being arrested for smoking dope. The judge says, "You seem like nice young men, and I'd like to give you a second chance instead of jail time. I want you to go out this weekend and try to convince others of the evils of drug use. I'll see you back in court Monday." On Monday, the judge asks the first guy, "How did you do over the weekend?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 17 people to give up drugs forever." 17 people? That's wonderful. How did you do it? "I used a diagram, Your Honor. I drew two circles like this, big circle and small circle. Then I told them that the big circle is your brain before drugs, and the small circle is your brain after drugs." "That's admirable," says the judge. Then he turns to the second guy. "And how did you do?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 156 people to give up drugs forever." "Wow," says the judge. 156 people. How did you manage to do that?" "Well, I used a similar diagram," the guy says. "I drew two circles like this, small circle and big circle. Then I pointed to the little circle and said, 'This is your asshole before prison.'" A DEA officer stops at a ranch in Texas and talks with an old rancher. He tells the rancher, "I need to inspect your ranch for illegally grown drugs." The rancher says, "Okay, but do not go in that field over there," as he points out the location. The DEA officer verbally explodes, saying, "Mister, I have the authority of the federal government with me." Reaching into his rear pants pocket, he removes his badge and proudly displays it to the rancher. "See this badge? This badge means I am allowed to go wherever I wish, on any land. No questions asked or answers given. Have I made myself clear? Do you understand?" The rancher nods politely, apologizes, and goes about his chores. A short time later, the old rancher hears loud screams and sees the DEA officer running for his life, chased by the rancher's big Santa Gertrudis bull. With every step, the bull is gaining ground on the officer, and it seems likely that he'll get gored before he reaches safety. The officer is clearly terrified. The rancher throws down his tools, runs to the fence, and yells at the top of his lungs, "Your badge! Show him your badge!" A lady about 8 months pregnant got on a bus. She noticed the man opposite her was smiling at her. She immediately moved to another seat. This time, the smile turned into a grin, so she moved again. The man seemed more amused. When on the fourth move, the man burst out laughing. She complained to the driver, and he had the man arrested. The case came up in court. The judge asked the man, about 20 years old, what he had to say for himself. The young man replied, "Well, Your Honor, it was like this. When the lady got on the bus, I couldn't help but notice her condition. She sat down under a sign that said, 'The Double Mint Twins are coming,' and I grinned. Then she moved and sat under a sign that said, 'Logan's liniment will reduce the swelling,' and I had to smile. Then she placed herself under a deodorant sign that said, 'William's big stick did the trick,' and I could hardly contain myself. But, Your Honor, when she moved the fourth time and sat under a sign that said, 'Goodyear rubber could have prevented this accident,' I just lost it. The case was dismissed." An old blind cowboy wanders into an all-girl biker bar by mistake. He finds his way to a bar stool and orders a shot of Jack Daniels. After sitting there for a while, he yells to the bartender, "Hey, you want to hear a blonde joke?" The bar immediately falls absolutely silent. In a very deep, husky voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, cowboy, I think it is only fair, given that you are blind, that you should know 5 things. The bartender is a blonde girl with a baseball bat. The bouncer is a blonde girl with a billy club. I'm a 6-foot-tall, 175-pound blonde woman with a black belt in karate. The woman sitting next to me is blonde and a professional weightlifter. The lady to your right is blonde and a professional wrestler. Now think about it seriously, cowboy. Do you still want to tell that blonde joke?" The blind cowboy thinks for a second, shakes his head, and mutters, "No, not if I'm going to have to explain it 5 times." One day, Bill complained to his friend that his elbow really hurt. His friend suggested that he go to a computer at the drugstore that can diagnose anything quicker and cheaper than a doctor. Simply put in a sample of your urine and the computer will diagnose your problem and tell you what you can do about it. It only costs $10. Bill figured he had nothing to lose, so he filled a jar with a urine sample and went to the drugstore. Finding the computer, he poured in the sample and deposited the $10. The computer started making some noise and various lights started flashing. After a brief pause, out popped a small slip of paper on which was printed, "You have tennis elbow. Soak your arm in warm water. Avoid heavy lifting. It will be better in 2 weeks." Later that evening, while thinking how amazing this new technology was and how it would change medical science forever, he began to wonder if this machine could be fooled. He mixed together some tap water, a stool sample from his dog, and urine samples from his wife and daughter. To top it off, he masturbated into the concoction. He went back to the drugstore, located the machine, poured in the sample, and deposited the $10. The computer again made the usual noise and printed out the following message. "Your tap water is too hard. Get a water softener. Your dog has worms. Get him vitamins. Your daughter is using cocaine. Put her in a rehabilitation clinic. Your wife is pregnant with twin girls. They aren't yours. Get a lawyer. And if you don't stop jerking off, your tennis elbow will never get better." The first grade teacher was starting a new lesson on multi-syllable words. She thought it would be a good idea to ask a few of the children examples of words with more than one syllable. "Jane, do you know any multi-syllable words?" After some thought, Jane proudly replied with Monday. "Great, Jane. Monday has 2 syllables, mon and day. Does anyone know another word?" I do, me," replied Johnny. Knowing Johnny's more mature sense of humor, she picks Mike instead. "Okay, Mike, what is your word?" "Saturday," says Mike. "Great, that has 3 syllables. Not wanting to be outdone, Johnny says, "I know a 4-syllable word. Pick me." Not thinking he can do any harm with a word that large, the teacher reluctantly says, "Okay, Johnny, what is your 4-syllable word?" Johnny proudly says, "Masturbation." Shocked, the teacher, trying to retain her composure, says, "Wow, Johnny, 4 syllables. That certainly is a mouthful." Johnny said, "No, ma'am, you're thinking of blowjob, and that's only 2 syllables." A wife goes on a retreat for work. When she returns, she finds a pair of panties in her dresser that do not belong to her. Furious, she questions her husband. The husband says, "I have no idea where they came from. I don't do the laundry." So the wife goes to the maid and questions her. Indignant, the maid replies, "Madam, how should I know? These panties don't belong to me." "I don't even wear panties, just ask your husband." A crowded city at a busy bus stop. A beautiful young woman wearing a tight leather skirt was waiting for a bus. As the bus stopped and it was her turn to get on, she became aware that her skirt was too tight to allow her leg to come up to the height of the first step of the bus. Slightly embarrassed and with a quick smile to the bus driver, she reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little, thinking that this would give her enough slack to raise her leg. She tried to again take the step only to discover that she couldn't. So, a little more embarrassed, she once again reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little more, and for the second time attempted the step. Once again, much to her embarrassment, she could not raise her leg. With a little smile to the driver, she again reached behind to unzip a little more, and again was unable to take the step. About this time, a large guy who was standing behind her picked her up easily by the waist and placed her gently on the step of the bus. The went ballistic and turned to the would-be Samaritan and screeched, "How dare you touch my body? I don't even know who you are!" The guy smiled and drawled, "Well, ma'am, normally I would agree with you, but after you unzipped my fly 3 times, I kind of figured we were friends." A guy stands over his tee shot for what seems an eternity, looking up, looking down, measuring the distance, figuring the wind direction and speed. Finally, his exasperated partner says, "What's taking so long? Hit the damn ball!" The guy answers, "My wife is up there watching me from the clubhouse. I want to make this a perfect shot." "Forget it, man," says his partner. "You'll never hit her from here." An 85-year-old man was requested by his doctor for a sperm count as part of his physical exam. The doctor gave the man a jar and said, "Take this jar home and bring back a semen sample tomorrow." The next day, the 85-year-old man reappeared at the doctor's office and handed over the jar, which was as clean and empty as it had been on the previous day. The doctor asked, "What happened?" And the man explained, "Well, doc, it's like this. First I tried with my right hand, but nothing. Then I tried with my left hand, but still nothing. Then I asked my wife for help. She tried with her right hand, then with her left, but still nothing. She tried with her mouth, first with her teeth in, then with them out, still nothing. We even called up Arlene, the lady next door, and she tried too, first with both hands, then an armpit, and she even tried squeezing it between her knees, but still nothing. The doctor was shocked. "You asked your neighbor?" The old man replied, "Yep, none of us could get the jar open."